7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. That was nice, wasn't it? It was so nice. Anyway, welcome to the program. It is, Jesus, start of the week, kind of. World's still on fire. COVID's still a thing. Extremists lining up to say, we won't get the shot. No, we won't get the shot. No, we don't want the vaccine. Got an election going on here in Canada. Trudeau's probably going to lose. Fucking unwrap that today. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Locke will be along very shortly. James is here as well as a guest who I've watched on CNN. I've seen him on ABC, MSNBC. Always, every single time I saw this dude, I was like, fuck, that guy's in Toronto. This is incredible. He's got such a crazy life. And listen, I had a chance to get to know this guy a little bit on the phone. He is a de-radicalized Muslim supremacist who became an undercover operative for the Canadian Security Intelligence Service and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, INSET. He worked multiple classified infiltration operations online and on the ground. The last investigation became public. You know who I'm talking about when I'll say this stuff. When the RCMP in the Toronto 18 terrorism case of 2006 arrested 18 individuals, in total 11 aspiring violent extremists, convicted after 5 legal hearings over 4 years in which this man was the main fact witness. He was extensively involved with ISIS social media boom, having infiltrated their networks online, and deals with the foreign fighter file, including returnees and rehabilitation at the international level. He's addressed institutions like the UN Security Council, U.S. Senate on Homeland Security, SOCINT, JSOU. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds important. He's got a master's in policing, intelligence, and counterterrorism. He's a specialist and a consultant to the international institutions, as well as training police, intelligence, and special operations forces in a range of topics. He's currently a professor at the School of Public Safety at Seneca College and a counterterrorism specialist for the renowned NGO, non-government organization, Parents for Peace. He's also the co-author of an acclaimed book called Undercover Jihadi and is featured in a permanent exhibit at the new International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. under Preventing Terror. Please welcome a Canadian institution, my friend and yours, MrMubinShaikh, ladies and gentlemen. MubinShaikh, nice to see you. How are you? Did you like that intro? I read literally every single piece of it for you.
You did.
Every
you
single
did.
Piece.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have to say counterterrorism expert at the very end, though? Like we need.
Yeah, we got it by the fourth paragraph. But the reason why I wanted to read the whole thing, Mubin, is because, listen, it's an honor to have you on. I've watched you on television, seeing you on CNN, all the networks talking about counterterrorism, terrorism, and trying to talk about culture and trying to educate people. And it's funny because every time I've seen you on the television, it's like everybody's trying to get different answers out of you or trying to get gaslit answers out of you from time to time. But you stay the course. You educate people. You've educated me. You made a big difference in my life. It's just fucking cool to talk to you. So I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, really. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's weird because I think I knew you, and you were saying before we got on there, you knew who I was, and all of a sudden we connected. I don't even know how. Did you follow me on Twitter, or did I follow you? What happened?
I can't remember, but I remember hearing you. I mean, years ago. You've been around. You've been around the block a few times, so it's good that we finally connected. Yeah,
I'm really excited to have you on today. You're in Toronto, right? You live in Toronto?
Yes, born and raised.
Kid, born and raised in the city of Toronto. James DiFiore joins us as well, and you and James have actually interviewed each other. I think you were on his Blackballed podcast. Did he make you uncomfortable at any point in time?
No, I mean we have the same hairstyle, so I mean we're practically related.
Yeah, we're skinheads. Didn't you know that, team?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, who cares? 2 bald guys, but we're here to talk about a bunch of stuff. Listen, I'm happy you're here because I want to break down and get into what we're watching over in Afghanistan, but I also want to get into a couple of other things. But for a lack of a better question, Mubin, what is happening in Afghanistan? Because we only see the pictures and the videos that people want us to see. So we see death, we see dirge, we see people dying to leave the country, handing their children over fences to special forces, Americans, British, and Canadian. But what is happening? Like how did that whole thing happen, and what is happening now?
Yeah, it's a huge mess, of course. But we can basically look at this. Let's start with the 10,000-foot view, which is basically the history of the area. So very quickly, 79 to 89. That's really the time when everything kicked off. The so-called Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979. Also, the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan in 79. And then there were a lot of things happening around 79, 80. And then in 80, you had the Iran-Iraq war and also the Israel-Lebanon war, which started. So a lot of shit going on fire pretty much at the same time. One of those things was the Soviet occupation. And at that time, you had the Americans, the Pakistanis, and the Saudi intelligence services, basically, who banded together to create this Mujahideen, what were called the Mujahideen. Some of them were religious types. Most of them were like warlord, tribal leaders, etc. Brought them all together to fight against the Soviets. The Soviets lost in 89. They left. From basically 89 to 94 or 95, those Mujahideen groups had a civil war. Now, out of that civil war was born the Taliban 1.0. In 1996, they came to power. One of the first things they did was they hung the former president from a lamppost. They executed hundreds of people in a soccer stadium. This was all done out in the public. And, we were now facing this Taliban regime. That regime was up and running till 2001 when the 9/11 attacks happened. The West went in and dislodged and overthrew basically the Taliban in Afghanistan. Then started the 20-year war that we see the end of. So this is where we are now. It's really a culmination of all those things that have preceded this particular point in time.
But what is like the hot tip in Afghanistan? Like, all we're ever taught, all we know is that Afghanistan is full of rocks, not a lot of infrastructure, right? Like it's portrayed as a wasteland. But why is this place seem to be the center of the warring universe for Western countries? This is something I need to understand as a human being.
This, has been going on for centuries. If you really look at the way ancient trade used to take place through the Hindu Kush Mountains, that was a very strategic point of travel, point of control. If you could control it, Alexander the Great, had it for a long time. And Alexander the Great's like 200 before the Common Era. So, that area has had strategic interest for thousands of years. And so we occupy just a blip on that larger, chronology of events, of time. Centuries have come and gone. Major powers have come and gone. And we just happen to be living in a time where we're experiencing, an example of that. Another major power who, for whatever reasons, the U.S. went in. Whether they said it was to dislodge Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, whether it was because we were claiming that we were going to send girls to schools, which we did to some point. But let's be real, it really wasn't it's never for the people. There's always some, strategic interest, right? Like it's like real politics, right? Nations don't have allies, they have interests. Okay. And the U.S. is no different. Britain is no different. Britain was doing this with the, Soviet Republic, long before there was an America even, so it's just another phase in what is otherwise an ongoing back and forth between regional players.
So 20 years go by, America and Canada, England, a couple of other allied countries go in there. They try to breed democracy into this culture that, is obviously a huge population that's reticent to actually embrace any democratic values. They go in, they dick around for 20 years. They decide, hey, listen, we're not nation builders, even though that's what we were told they were, nation building. We're getting out. Now we see the out part, and it's been disturbing, right? Like we've seen these videos of people taxiing down runways, hanging on to Hercules C-116 aircrafts or C-17 aircrafts. We've seen people falling off those. We've seen, again, the images. So what is it that happened? Like, how did that, as the culmination of events, get to that point? And I know that there are a series of events, releasing prisoners, Taliban prisoners, all that kind of stuff. But like, how did this? Like, it was what it felt like. It was 2 weeks. 2 weeks it took the Taliban to literally roll over the government and literally scare the shit out of the world and every other country that's in that country.
Mm-hmm. You can really look. I mean, so let's look at the time, even when Obama came into office. This is really what started the withdrawal process. By this time, the U.S. had already learned and realized that there was really no point. They weren't really getting anywhere in Afghanistan. So, Obama started the process. Trump negotiated this deal with the Taliban where they would be, the Americans would be out by May. It's now August. The Taliban have just said, listen, we're not going to extend any more deadlines. August 31st, everybody out. And that's 7 days. So maybe we'll see an uptick of evacuations. We will, because the U.S. has, invoked their civil reserve. And so you can have now passenger airlines basically filling in the spaces and joining the line of aircraft that are going to be taking people out. So, they released prisoners in this exchange. One of those prisoners is now the president. So this has been coming. Yeah, this has been coming a long time. I mean, I don't want to make it political and say it's, this president or that president. The point is that the U.S. realized that they're bleeding money when it comes to this stuff. To what end? What's the trade-off? And it just wasn't a good enough trade-off anyway. So, the withdrawal period takes time. When you've sent in, $1 trillion worth of equipment, there's a lot of activity that goes around that. And it will take you several years to withdraw. But now we're at the tail end of it. And there's no way this was going to be a neat and tidy process. There's just no way to do it. I mean, they realize that the Taliban are a formidable fighting force. They've shown that. And the time is up, right? And so really they're just trying to get people out as quick as they can. The Taliban doesn't want, a conflict with the U.S. while they're leaving. There's still enough troops there on the ground to give Taliban a really bad day. And the Taliban don't want that, but it's such a mess. Like, you have really ISIS in particular that's just waiting to pounce on that situation. And unfortunately, don't be surprised in the next 7 days if you hear that a major incident has occurred, because there's a lot of anti-aircraft missiles that are there. Any one of those civilian crafts or military rescue crafts can be taken down. Suicide bombing in the middle, right outside of the gates of Kabul airport. There's a lot of things that can still go very, really badly.
Well, and that's, it's still a powder keg, right? Like you, again, the things that we see on television are really only the things they want us to see. But what's the reality? Like, what's the reality on the ground for? Because I don't know what this version of the Taliban's about. You referred to them in their original inception back in the 90s as 1.0. What is 2.0? We've heard them say, hey, listen, we're not interested in not allowing girls and women to have places in the Taliban society this time around. Everybody's skeptical. Mm-hmm. They're saying, no, we're not going to kill people. You can just get out of the country if you don't want to live here. We want people that like Sharia law. These are nice things that we hear, but like, what is this version of the Taliban? And I'm sure there's people in that country that are like, fuck, thank God the oppressors are leaving and we get our people back.
Well, that's the problem is that you have these double narratives, right? About, who wants who there. I mean, the Americans have been portrayed as, the unbeliever occupiers. And at one level, I mean, they are occupiers. So you have some who are, obviously because of the war, 20 years of war, there have been a lot of civilian casualties, not just, because of the U.S., but unfortunately, this is just the reality of war. There isn't a single country or a single war that has ever taken place where these kinds of atrocities don't happen, right? Like, we like to believe that, we can conduct these perfect wars that are not messy. And that's just fantasy thinking, right? That's just, So you have some who are like, yay, the invaders are gone, but others, who were there for 20 years, who, the Taliban were being kept back. They had opportunities, especially women and girls, getting education, whatever else, vocational skills, etc. and who only know that. And so how are they going to deal with a complete reversal of all those things? They're not going to, deal with it very well. The older people that are there, people who have, are traditionally minded, who have been there forever, for them, it's going to be, back to usual. They're used to it. Now, there are these caricatures of how the Taliban are going to be and how they are. And I mean, make no mistake, they're not good people. But they are not who they were in the 90s. That is the reality. They are a lot more pragmatic and practical. This is one of the reasons why they're even saying that, listen, we're not going to, just immediately keep women out or, implement this harsh, version of Sharia law. Like I mentioned, what they did in the 90s when they first came to power, they're largely not doing now. I mean, if they were the way they were exactly, the road to Kabul would have been littered with hanging bodies. They would have been conducting high-profile assassinations all over. You are hearing stories of there being, in some places, maybe door-to-door, seeking out people who worked with the West or people who were in the intelligence services or the police or military. But that's, par for the course. I mean, that happens in any place where there is this shift of power and authority. If you go back to Iraq, when the Americans went into Iraq, and let me just juxtapose or make a pushpin note here. The war in Afghanistan was only going on for 2 years. They really didn't even, they weren't really making much headway. They didn't get anywhere really. And then the Americans opened a new front in Iraq based on lies about, WMDs. And thank God that Canada did not involve themselves in Iraq. Because the invasion of Iraq generated a whole lot of terrorism around the world. A lot of this domestic terrorism that we see post 9/11 was actually post 2003, after the Iraq invasion, the London bombings, the Toronto case. There was a case in Australia. There were so many plots that came out because of Iraq. So the same thing in Iraq. They came in and they basically laid off the military and intelligence. And where did those guys go? Right. So guess where they ended up going? To Al Qaeda and then ISIS. So now what we're dealing with is a reversal, right? Now you have the Taliban coming in and telling a lot of these people that, listen, we're not going to kill you. They are trying to interrogate and identify and interrogate as many people as possible, but really for the purpose of flipping them and bringing them on board to their intelligence service. This happened in Iran as well, right? With the overthrow of the Shah, a lot of those people who were in the Shabak, the intelligence services there, they just moved over to the intelligence services of the regime. So this is what you're seeing now. It's a change of guard, and while the Taliban, like I said, are not good people, they are pragmatic. They really are going to try to put out this image that we are not the barbarians that you think we are. So you probably won't see, public executions, high-profile stuff like that. They'll probably still be executing people, but it will be away from the cameras and out of the spotlight.
Execution light, if you will. I mean, it's wild. The whole situation over there is wild because we try to, like I said, balance, the information that we get with, what does the region want, and it's funny because I put out a tweet, I would say probably about 4 or 5 days ago when things were really hot, and it was, hey, maybe this is a good experience for Canadians. Maybe we shouldn't be ramming democracy down the throats of other people. And I wonder how much of that plays into this because, that sentiment is there. And I'm a massive fan of personal freedom, right? Like I hate religion. I fucking can't stand man-made organized religion. So, and again, you said the word juxtapose. That's how I feel. I feel like, I'm trying to learn about not just the situation over there, but I'm also learning about, what is, and maybe you can answer this. What is Canada's responsibility in those situations, and what is their responsibility now after being involved in this mess? And are they meeting their responsibility in bringing some of these people out of that country?
So let me answer this in two parts. One is like the larger geopolitical considerations. Like, I totally agree. We cannot force democracy on people. Like, you need to have an underlying value system and appreciation of certain values before you can, build a democratic institution on top of that. Remember, in this space, everybody's playing the game. It's not just the U.S. or Canada. The Russians are there, the Chinese are there, the Iranians are there, the Indians are there, the Pakistanis are there. Like, everybody is in this space. And the U.S. shouldn't try to, of course, impose democracy. It never works. But that's what all these authoritarian countries understand, right? They're like, yeah, totally. We're not about democracy. We love dictators. We love the a strong arm puppet ruler that can just sign off on our business deals, and who cares what they're doing to the people. This is the approach that the Russians, Chinese, and others take, right? So we're kind of stuck in one sense because we subscribe to these lofty ideals of freedom, of rights, of human dignity, and the rest of the world just doesn't give a shit. The second part of it, in terms of what Canada is doing or has done and is doing, look, Canada's soldiers have had a very honorable experience in Afghanistan. We were never accused of war crimes. We were never accused of killing babies, taking body parts as trophies. We were the good guys. Afghan people loved Canadians. If you like, I've talked to so many even military services. It's like, ask yourself why Canadians weren't being attacked by Afghan soldiers in Afghanistan like the Americans were, right? Because the Americans they were at the forefront of it. They had the bigger footprint. So what Canada did, the service of our troops that were over there was very honorable. And what we need to do is two things now. One is to take care of them and take care of the people from Afghanistan who took care of them while they were in the field. And that's the interpreters and their families. So there is a lot of movement on the second part anyway. Well, in terms of getting Afghan interpreters and their families out.
Do you talk to any of those families, Mubin? Do you talk to any of those families? And are these? Yeah.
Yeah, I am in touch with some people here and there. Not so many. I mean, I don't really have that many connections to Afghan families per se, but I mean, I am working on some things, we'll say, like helping to get people out and just making connections with people who are still over there. I'm dealing with a case where a guy, him, his wife, and two kids, like he worked with the Americans, so he's squared away, but his parents, he's trying to get to either Canada or the US. And we're trying to help him do that. So a lot of people are coming over. There have already been a number of Canadian flights. Again, look, it's because it's such a shit show. Media, and I'll use the term loosely, media is really just there to whatever. Like, I consider media just to it's just to talk shit. It's a peanut gallery. Like, I mean, at one level, I know I'm simplifying it. There's obviously, I'm not saying there's no value to the press or whatever. It's a lot of good stuff, of course. But what I'm seeing is the pace on the ground is moving so quickly. The news articles that you're getting about, this particular evacuation thing is not moving quick enough. And they may not even know that by the time they thought about writing the article and wrote the article, like 4 flights have already gone with hundreds of people. Right. Mm-hmm. So you're never able to get up-to-date news about evacuations. So there is this misunderstanding of, we're not getting people out or whatever. Sure, we can sit here and say, it would be ideal if we could get this many people out. Well, yeah, it would have been ideal if we could just leave Afghanistan and it would be okay. But that's not the reality. The reality is it's very messy. It's going to be really messy. And all we can do is the best that we're capable of doing. And Canada has already done, we should never, I don't know how people are, whatever, but don't smack talk Canada, because we have already taken in Afghanis the first time with the first Afghan refugee wave after 9/11, don't forget. Then also Syrian refugees, Yazidis. Now we're out reallocating more space for Afghan refugees. We are the best country in the world. We really are. And so, we're trying to do what we can. I think the only thing that's missing out of all this is our veterans and service members who have served their time, and who's going to help them and who's going to reach out to them and keep them, safe and good. So still a lot of work to do, no doubt.
Mubin, I was wondering if you had, maybe I'll ask you like this. Have you ever seen human beings cling to an airplane as it was taking off as a form of a potential escape? Have you ever seen that before?
Never seen that. I've seen the videos, and I even saw one of the follow-up articles of one of the guys who fell off, because there was this one video where you could see at least 3 people. There was one video where there was several of them just sitting next to each other. One of them was videotaping it, and then I saw the end of that video where you can see 2 people falling through the air, and then I saw an article about. Yeah,
I've got the video here. I mean, this is the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, the end of that.
Yeah.
And when I switch to the back, you'll see
when I first saw this, I saw this. I was undecided whether or not what it was real, for a whole bunch of reasons. I was like, I don't know if that's real. I'm not going to make make my mind up on what I'm looking at right now. And now I feel like enough time I found out if it wasn't real. And I am just can imagine that level of desperation for one thing. And I've just never seen that crisis we've lived through in our lifetimes, all the things that we've seen on the news. That is a first. And it was very bizarre, I thought.
Yeah, there was one of the follow-up stories. It was like a 14-year-old, soccer player kid who wanted to leave. And he was like, just a teenager, man, just a teenager. But it shows you that this is what's left of Afghanistan. Like the best and brightest are leaving in droves, right? Like what's going to be left for Afghanistan? There could be a civil war coming. The Taliban are trying to negotiate with some of the rebel alliances that are trying to form. But them days are over. The U.S. is not going to be, nobody's going to be supporting or funding or arming these groups. Like they've pretty much, wiped their hands of it.
Will it be the same as the last time? Like you got the idea last time that when they put in, the president of Afghanistan, and there was all these warlords that people were keeping happy, and it was like, Americans were guarding poppy fields and things like that. Is there there's a lot of talk of a shift to the Taliban attempting to do some sort of international business brokerage in regards to mining lithium. Is that like this next? Is that what they're sort of hoping for? Is that something that they've announced? Is it just, media? Yeah, go ahead.
So this goes back to the days of when multinationals wanted to run petroleum pipelines through Afghanistan, right? And there were areas that warlords controlled, and then other areas that the Taliban controlled, and they had to negotiate even then. Like, I mean, don't be surprised if you hear that multinationals were giving money to the Taliban even, right? So that their assets were not being compromised and destroyed. The same thing will happen. I mean, the Taliban, they understand the mineral wealth that is there in Afghanistan. Everybody knows this. I've seen different, assessments saying up to, $1 trillion worth of mineral wealth is available, in Afghanistan. The Taliban don't have the know-how to mine that sort of stuff, and they don't know what to do with it. But the Russians and Chinese know exactly what to do with it. And they're very smart. They're not going to send their armies to occupy. They're basically going to say, and they're making their deals. Like the Russian and Chinese embassies are open for business in Afghanistan, right? Most Western ones are closed up shop and basically turned over to the Taliban. But the Chinese they understand this. They have been on this march to build their Silk Route, trying to get through that Hindu Kush region, which has been that strategic corridor for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So they're going to build in those areas, and that's going to bring a lot of money to the Taliban. And the Taliban know this. This is why when I say they are going to be pragmatic and practical, they are going to reach out to other countries to try to get some legitimacy. Yeah, we're hearing Western countries say that, well, we're going to sanction them. Taliban are still considered a terrorist entity according to the Canadian terror list. So, I mean, we'll see if the Westerners will change their tune a little bit. But Asian countries, they're not going to care. It's going to be business as usual. And business will open up. And I believe the Taliban are really going to try to at least portray themselves as not the barbarians they used to be. They're not going to be progressive types, obviously, at all. I mean, it's possible that we may hear of girls going to school and learning certain subjects and maybe not other subjects. Maybe they might, kind of stay away from beating people in public. This is one of the things I heard one of them say is that, we're going to encourage following Sharia law softly.
Yeah.
So it's like,
they said they were going to protect women's rights under Sharia law. It's like,
Yeah. Well, their understanding of rights in Sharia law is like the complete opposite, right? Like
that's
women
like it's like protecting your racial rights under Jim Crow. Don't worry, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, it just again, I mean, this is an education, right? There's so many different things that we don't know about the Taliban. And I hear you talking about how pragmatic this version of the Taliban is, and I know you got to run and get your kids, so I got a couple more questions, and then we'll let you split. But what is Taliban 2.0? Like you were involved. You were a former Muslim supremacist, right? Like you're a de-radicalized guy that probably bought into that back then, but like. From then to now, what is this? Like, do you expect them to be taken seriously? Do you expect them to form a government? Like, do you expect anything good for? Can you say that this organization is or isn't a terrorist organization anymore, judging by what you've heard?
So it's surreal for me because I'm looking at the date. It's August 24th. And this time, 26 years ago in 1995, I was in Quetta, Pakistan. I met the Taliban while I was there. I had a 2-day encounter with them. And I did at that time, I was, 19 years old. I became enamored by them. I thought that these guys were it. This was the way forward. Jihad, jihad, jihad. And when I came back in September of 95, they had eventually come to power, and I saw that, hey, they did what they said that they would do. Okay. And that was 26 years ago at 1.0. So here we are, at 2.0, and, it's not that different. The ideology remains the same. They believe in this austere version of Sharia law. It's almost like a fascist interpretation of Islamic law. They talk about, the rights that Islam gave women. I mean, if you actually look, Islam did give women a lot of rights relative to those days, ownership of property, being able to initiate divorce, having their own businesses and things like that. But you see the Taliban, what they're doing, and it's none of that. So it's like, you have to ask yourself, like, well, where are they getting these sources actually from? And so really, if you look at their cultural construct, these people are largely illiterate people, who come from just war, and war. And they believe that the only way for there to be peace in Afghanistan is through a heavy hand, is through a strong hand. Now, people ask, are they still terrorists, this and that? Look, they're not good people, but let's be honest, since 9/11, there was not a single plot that came out of Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. They did not have international aspirations or aspirations outside of their country. And that's what the other regional players who are their neighbors want to hear. Like Iran, for example. Iran and the Taliban have no love lost. The Taliban have been killing, Hazara Shia Muslims. They border Iran, right? So the Iranians are nervous. The Chinese are right there. The Chinese have been telling their people that, we got to put these Uyghurs in camps because they're connected to the Taliban. And it's like, wait a second, but now you're trading with the Taliban. So are they extremists or aren't they? That's just China dealing with, China will deal with cannibals if they had to, right? Like Taliban, no problem for them. So that's the reality, is they will try to put on a good face. Look, I'll be honest, again, I'm not obviously, there's no love lost between me and the Taliban for sure. But, I saw a tweet the other day from a lady who was there in Afghanistan for a while. And she says, you know what, for the first time in so many years, I have electricity for 24 hours. There aren't rolling blackouts. The Taliban are not people that you can bribe with money. They're not people that live in luxury in palaces, drive fancy cars, whatever, like the Afghan government or members of the Afghan government. A lot of the people consider the Afghan government corrupt beyond corrupt. They could not, access, if you will, justice or, disputes that they may have had. These Taliban guys, they have courts out there. It's a very quick process. You cannot bribe them. Here's the ruling, and they just execute it, and that's it. Not execute as in kill, but they implement the ruling, and people get on with their lives, and that's what they want to happen in Afghanistan.
Okay. I was just curious that when you were talking about the Taliban and how people can become enamored with it, my immediate thought was like, I wonder what it would have been like to be raised like in Brooklyn and like seeing mafia guys or something like that. But then I started to think, where does the religious zealotry stop once you start climbing the hierarchy? Because it feels like the rule of thumb or wisdom is that if you're like leadership, you're probably not buying into the extremist religious part. You probably have more of a political bent. You probably maybe even have maybe you want money, but it always feels like there might be like a certain, threshold where anyone above that, they take away the religious stuff, but they use the religion to make sure their soldiers are mobilized and motivated by the right thing. Is that fairly?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because in that trajectory of radicalization and that hierarchy, you're going to have people from all different sides, right? You're going to have those that many of them will use the religion as a cover for something else. Others are, of course, hardcore ideologues, but you can really trace this religious zealotry from the cancer that is Wahhabism that emerged out of the Saudi deserts. I mean, really, thanks to British, Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, because the Ottoman Caliphate at the time, they had joined the wrong side, the Axis powers. So the British were intent on, not overthrowing, but compromising the Ottoman Caliphate. They had authority in Arabia. The British worked with the Saudi tribes, the Ibn Saud tribe, and overthrew basically Turkish authority in the region, in the country, and then created this state called Saudi Arabia. And then from the late 1800s and early 1900s, when oil was discovered, a lot of these petrodollars were then spent spreading this cancerous ideology all over the Muslim world. So the Taliban were under influence by these people. Like anywhere you see this mentality, it's a very literal reading of Islam. It does not pay attention to the context, historical context, the example of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Like they portray themselves as just warmongering barbarians. And unfortunately, we see the consequences of this wherever they go and this mentality goes. This is what they produce. So if you look at ISIS, it's another example of that. Like the Islamic sources, that's why like when Muslims say, listen, these people are not Islam, we're not just saying a line for PR purposes. Like the Islamic sources talk about these people who would be religious zealots, who would be hyper religious in their outward appearances, but be butchers, of people left, right, and center. So unfortunately, this is where the ideology comes from. This is how it manifests. Some people are hardcore ideologues. Others are just there for the money.
It's funny how no matter what religion it is, if the closer you get to a literal interpretation, the worse it's going to be.
Yes.
No matter
It's
what
true.
religion.
Totally true.
Professor Sheikh, thank you. I know you got to roll. I can't, and I call you brother because anybody that operates in common sense for the greater good, I don't care about where you're from. So you're my brother. But real quick, is this the same person? Yes or no? This guy and this guy. This guy and this guy.
There's
is
a great.
Is this the new face of terrorism in North America? I think it is.
One of the ironies that I've seen is how anti-Muslims and Muslim terrorists both share the same interpretation of the Quran. Islam tells you to kill the infidel. Islam tells you this and that. Like you cannot tell the difference who is saying what, right? So, stupidity is, if I can say it, it's the regular distribution of a-hole theory. That in every culture, people, background, race, religion, you got your a-holes.
They could probably have beers over talking about gay people. Like really, they could connect on that. Maybe that's the common ground that you need to find. No,
I was laughing today because, not laughing. I was sad because a buddy of mine, Rob Gill, who's gay and works with us, he's very upset that they're going door to door in Afghanistan, rooting out gay men. And then I came across this picture and I'm like, oh yeah, they're the fucking same. Like, the born again religious zealots are the exact same as the Taliban zealots. Professor Sheikh, thank you very much. MrMubinShaikh on Twitter is where you can find him. Always appreciate your expertise and your time. So thank you very much. And we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks guys. Cheers.
Take care. That is MrMubinShaikh and he is fucking awesome. And that is Lachlan Cross and he is right here, ladies and gentlemen. But you caught that interview, right? Because you were driving home in your car.
I listened to the whole thing. I don't think I missed.
I appreciate.
Well, I was trying to give you guys an idea of what I'm being tested. Like the world is testing me right now. On Sunday, it was the toilet paper. Today it was. I was supposed to pick up my car at noon and got there and sat in the waiting room and then I didn't bring any headphones with me. So yeah, just crazy.
Dude, doesn't matter.
I did not need to be a part of that at all. That was amazing. That's unbelievable. I mean, it's like, why isn't that guy on every media outlet in Canada talking about the current situation?
He tells the truth
right now.
He tells the fucking truth.
I'm conflicted right now with this whole situation because, I mean, I looked at it and I went, so we're going to learn from this, right? Like, we shouldn't be trying to force our way of life down anybody's throats. But
Bingo.
then the military guys that I know, they're mad. Like they look at this as failing the Afghan people, and I'm like, really? Like, wow. And
That means they have good captains. That doesn't necessarily mean
no,
it's true, right?
these
You know what I mean?
these are
Like,
guys that were. I know quite a few guys that were over there, and they think that we need to be there still. Like,
I have a friend who
I'm
has a son over there, and he's 21 years old, and he's at the airport. And I was talking to him the other day about it, and he's like, "Yeah, it's like craziness, right? Like it's the general sentiment is, if you're a Canadian or American veteran, is what the fuck did we go there for? Why did my friends have their legs blown off, or why were they murdered by IEDs, or why?" And he put it to me this way, and his son is there. He's like, listen, my son chose to do that profession. Those are the, haphazard results of that profession. And that's how he looks at it. And I like the fact that he looks at it like that, because he's got such an emotional connection to the whole thing. Like, it's his son. He's got two sons, wonderful people. Canadian Forces guy. He's an Army guy. He loves his profession. He loves helping. He loves serving. But it's a good question. But at the same time, it's like, when someone gets into radio and they get fired and they go, "Oh, I can't believe I got fired." It's like, I know that the situations are incredibly different. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. And they chose that job because they had an affinity for that job. Maybe they like Cub Scouts a lot. Maybe they like guns a lot. Maybe they just love to serve their country. Maybe they loved camping. I don't know what the situation is. Maybe they love the brotherhood of it. I mean, there's a million reasons people get into the military as a profession, right? And listen, it's sad. It's sad what we're watching. But it's also fucking, I think, pretty motivating. And I like the fact that, like, did you hear what he said? Canada has been outstanding.
I think we always are
back.
in military situations. And again, I'm glad he said what he said, because I was thinking the same thing. We were being critical of the evacuation process, but at the same time, I kept seeing stories about them bringing people and planes landing, and I'm like, okay, hold on, but they're doing it. I mean, maybe the timing was off, right? But I'm glad he said that out loud, because I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about the Afghan situation to have too many opinions about it. So I'm glad I was able to sit back and just listen to that guy talk, because he was unbelievable.
I don't think it's ever.
Yeah, I think that's the point of bringing him in, right? Like, we wanted him to come in because we don't get it. So you have to ask somebody. Sorry, James, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking about the greater point that you made earlier about how, can we, bring democracy to countries? And I've been sitting here staring into space the whole, like, since you said that. Trying to think of Japan, we had these two nuclear weapons. I don't recall off the top of my head, we brought democracy to this country, and they love it, and it's safe.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of these situations. Unfortunately, I think a lot of these situations are driven by money, by power, by control of a region that they're worried another country is going to take advantage of if they don't have boots on the ground. Like the conversation about China and Russia sitting in the wings, waiting for Western culture to pull up stakes in Afghanistan so that they can start trading and mining with the Taliban is interesting. And does that speak to a larger reason why they stuck it out for so long? I mean, I have a hard time believing any politician when they're saying they're doing something for the greater good of people. Like in Edmonton, and this is a horrible comparison, and please forgive me, but I mean, it drives me fucking crazy when they justify photo radar for saving lives. They don't fucking care about our lives. They don't care about saving or like not having any accidents. They want the cash from photo radar. Stop lying to us. So, I mean, I understand that maybe that's the message you need to put out front. And maybe there are groups of people that are involved in this occupation that go there to help that population. But is there a more nefarious reason why we're fucking there?
Lachlan Cross, ladies and gentlemen, saying that Don Iveson is like a Taliban leader.
Thank you, James. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for hitting it. Old Winerson. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm thankful he came on. Like I to understand what's happening, it's important to have people on that have been there and that get it. And fuck,
Yeah.
when you were yourself were a former radicalized terrorist, and you went to the other side and put a whole bunch of those guys in jail, specifically the Toronto 18. He's responsible for it. He knows it. He understands all the players.
How long was he undercover in that organization? It was a couple of years, wasn't it?
2006 to 2014, I believe.
What?
If I'm not mistaken.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
long time.
Yeah, a lot of
Guy's a fucking
he
stud.
planted seeds. He told me when I interviewed him in June or May or whatever that was about how he would go to like religious services and stuff and would see people who were like sick, who we knew were terrorists or whatever. And 6 months later, he's in the same room as them. And there'd be moments where he's like, do they know? Like, I have no idea. Like, so it was probably really nerve wracking, like a Donnie Brasco.
Little anxiety.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like just a little bit.
I'd have the runs for 6 years straight.
Dude, I told him before we went on, I'm like, I cannot keep Christmas gifts a secret. I would be fucked as an informant or a spy. Fucked. I'd be like, okay, guys, I got to tell you something. Hang on. You're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
I would
take
try
my
to
sandals off.
I'd try to convert them to atheism.
Yeah, so would I. Guys, I think all religion's stupid. What do you think? Yeah, we
Yeah.
agree. How about let's switch gears completely. New poll from Ipsos. Did you see this today? Locke, you're not going to like it, or you might. New poll from Ipsos. Let me put this up here. If the election were held tomorrow, the Liberals would receive 33% of the decided vote, 3 points, down 3 points. The Conservatives are now statistically tied with the Liberals. And the reason why is because they're kicking it in Ontario, like absolutely destroying Justin Trudeau. Like that was, and I would love to get your thoughts on this, James, the disaster that this fucking loser had this last week. Is this one of the worst election performances you've ever seen by other than Stephen Harper a few years ago, by like an incumbent prime minister? Because he might lose. Like the fucking ultimate. He might lose after calling an election 3 years early because he wanted a power grab. And I don't think anybody saw this coming. I mean, I called it the day they did the election. But
I didn't see this at all.
What's the deal with the sentiment? Is it the fact that he called an election in a pandemic? Is that it?
That's a big one. I think a lot of people.
I didn't think
like,
that was going to have an impact.
But I didn't either. But is that the biggest? Is that the biggest one? Like, have we all underestimated, even though we knew it was a shit move, how shit of a move it was?
I think that is a big one. But it's a death. It's the whole death by 1,000 cuts thing. It's it's the internet thing stuff that a lot more people were talking about that than I thought were. And it wasn't just like crazy right wingers. Every time, in fact, Trudeau tries to paint people who disagree with one of his pieces of legislation an extremist, that the opposite is probably true. That reasonable people disagree with him about that particular point because he always overreaches. He's like, what do you call people? Bill C-10 people that disagree with Bill C-10. Right? Like it was,
he called us all conspiracy crazies.
That's right. And so anytime he does that, that what is really happening is that moderates, actually probably all across the spectrum, are just, they don't want their internet with a side of George Orwell. And I think that's a universal sentiment. So I would say that
a lot of people watch horrible porn. And I mean, that's no one wants to talk about that, but that's what everyone was thinking.
Yeah. I think it's, I'm kind of proud of the country. Like, listen, it's weird because I don't like the idea of a conservative. I know. Just the idea that the sentiment is where it is.
The alternative is Archie Bunker. I mean, Justin
word.
Trudeau needs to retire and tell people he lost to Archie Bunker.
Yeah.
And then we need to deal with that fucking gong show. I'm sorry. And I am conservative leaning. And I need to know that there's a chance that Justin Trudeau might not be running this country for the next 4 years at the end of September. But having said that, I think we we might be, I don't know. The devil,
I got a question. I got a question for you guys, and for the group. I'd be really interested in hearing your responses to this. Do you think that we're kind of waking up to woke being just as fucking dangerous as whatever the fuck that guy was fighting for years? Like, think about it this way. What Justin has tried to do in the name of inclusiveness, which is all a cock up. We know he's a fraud. We know that he takes advantage of these situations. We know he looks for opportunities to make other people look not as woke as him. And we know how extremely woke he is. Like, I would put him on the extremist side of the woke ledger, like dangerously extremist, because he's that woke. Are we seeing like kind of that the awakening of that woke side where center left is going, maybe it's like actually divisive to be, a fraudulently inclusive dick. Like, maybe this isn't the way we should be living. Maybe some politically incorrect stuff isn't as bad as we think it is. Maybe there's some room to grow on the other side of the conservative or right ledger. Like, do you think that we're seeing how dangerous and stupid that new extreme woke culture is?
I think it's
and people fighting against it.
I don't know if it's that. I think the virtue signaling has a lot to do with it. I think, and this is what I was hopeful would happen with Trudeau. I think people are starting to realize he is just a fraud, and it has nothing to do with how woke he's trying to be. It has everything to do with any time he speaks. And I'm not like it sound like I'm not kidding.
Just the wrong orifice for him.
Even my wife, who is very forgiving and wants to see the best in people, she'll sneer at the TV when he's on. And it's that's cutting through. I don't.
But did she sneer at the TV 5 years ago when she put him in the office to begin with?
She was bothered. She was more bothered by my anger for the man. Like, that was a bigger issue. Oh, Jesus. Why do you have to yell at the TV? Like, it is what it is, right? Let it go. Let it go, you dick, right? Go downstairs.
Jethro.
Go downstairs. Have another beer, right? Now it's like, there's something wrong. It's just been growing a level of there's something wrong with this guy.
Do you know what he is?
Yeah.
Do you know who he is? I'll tell you who Justin Trudeau is. He's that kid. He's that ass-licking kid.
Yeah,
from high school with the preppy polo shirt, whose parents picked him up in like some kind of souped up sedan, and never talked to any. No, doesn't have an athletic bone in his body. Who made mixtapes for girls when he was in high school,
or
maybe girls, who made mixtapes for people, who told on everybody. And who was known as the school fucking rat. Oh, and then pretended like he didn't do anything wrong. That's what I see with him. Like, that's the vision I have of him according to how he's responded. Am I wrong? Like, that was the kid we used to beat the shit out of.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. And I think,
thank you.
I think the silver spoon up the ass thing is definitely a big part of it, right? I mean, he just didn't live a life that we all lived, and he does not have the same sensibilities that most Canadians have, that had to work their way to the position they are. It wasn't just handed to them on a silver platter. And again, I think the bullshit meter has it's hit brown.
Yeah, we're sick of it. We get it. Yeah. I think we put up with the bullshit meter the last time around. Sorry, James. Go ahead.
If you've ever gotten a job that you weren't qualified to get, whether as a young person or not, and you have that imposter syndrome where you're like, any second now they're going to find out that I am not qualified for this fucking job at all.
I still have
That's happened to me millions and millions of times. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that at all. He doesn't have that at all.
Because he's a cock.
No, but the problem, but the contrast is he doesn't have it at all, and he needs it more than anybody I've ever seen. Like, he needs,
again,
great point.
You guys have criticized me for this, But he is one of those kids that could have used a good beating from a father figure, like a good ass kicking in the parking lot. And I know you
Something
guys
tells
are
me he
against this.
still enjoys that. Actually,
We'd still be in Afghanistan. That's all that would do. Right? I don't know.
Anyway, I think that's what's happening. I don't think it has
All right.
anything to do with all the woke bullshit. I think
I do.
his true personality, I think it plays a part, but I think his true personality is cutting through. People are smelling it on him now. Even the ones that want to see the greater good in people, like my beautiful wife. And again, everyone is, I think a lot of people are going to struggle with their vote when they hit. And I think a lot of people realize too, that him trying to buy his way into this next 4 years is doing way more damage than good. And there is a lot of conversations. There's a lot of topics that are front and center that that are not front and center, that are just sort of bubbling in the background, where you kind of have to side one way or the other with them based on how people would judge you. I can't give you my true opinion on a lot of topics these days, because the overly woke liberal side of the world would go, what a fucking cock. He actually believes that? And I think there's a lot more of that than we know. There's a lot more of those people that are just, they're not going to pipe up at a dinner party unless they get a couple of glasses of wine in them, right? And those are the conversations where he's out front going, this is how you need to believe, and the virtue signaling and all of that. And I think people are ready to let him walk. I think here's what I think he should do. He should put Sophie out there to sing more.
I don't disagree. I think
James,
if
Max Bernier should call it a he election.
I don't disagree with you. I think a little Sophie is what we need, actually.
Oh my!
Some people live.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh my!
That's nice. This secret weapon. Sophie's his secret weapon. He brings her back for a one-night only show. He secures a vote.
She sounds like
from
York
tone-deaf idiots.
When you smile back at me.
Listen to when she really goes for it.
Yodeling? Was that a yodel attempt?
I don't know. Bruckmann, are you there? Bruckmann, Justin Bruckmann. What do you think of this? What do you think of? Would you vote for Justin based on his wife's angelic voice?
I'd vote for him if she would shut up.
I don't know, man. It's like, it's kind of painful. I feel like I just chewed on some tinfoil.
Yeah.
Look at her.
When you smile.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is. I've never seen this before. I
I
don't
hope I
even
never
know
see
what
it
to
again.
say about that.
If Sarah McLachlan got surgery to replace her vocal cords with a bagpipe, it would be what that sounded like. It's awful. You'd have to.
I got an email yesterday from a friend of mine who works with the Liberal Party yesterday, who said he was appalled that we played that video. This one.
Not as much as we are appalled.
Appalled, he said. I'm appalled that you would go after Justin Trudeau's innocent wife. I'm like,
Man,
I'm not.
I feel
Just,
so
I
bad.
just,
I mean, there is a reason why this is happening, and it has a lot to do with the lack of bedroom activities. Like,
Why does Daddy's website have 2 arrows?
well, Justin Bruckmann's here. We fucking screwed him out of an appearance last week, and I am so happy he's back. He's an MMA legend. It looks like he's either at a massage therapy place or some kind of futuristic rub and tug. Where are you right now, Justin?
It's actually a combination of both. No, I'm
get your teeth done and a handy.
actually my
That's not
my
a
new
bad
job.
business
What I
model.
do is I'm a laser tattoo removal tech. I sit here and just smash people with a fucking laser all day. It's the best job in the world. So I'm just hanging out in my workspace.
You were
So
race
What's
people.
the worst tattoo you've
Amazing.
ever removed?
The worst
Great
tattoo I've ever. Listen, dude.
Yeah.
It's not that the tattoo is bad; it's that the placement is bad. Like when I was doing the training for this job, I'm like, oh, I'm going to see some fucking bad tattoos. I never really thought about where they would be. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, like there's some dude or some woman in here dropping trousers, and I got to get in there with fucking a mask on and some lasers and get someone's ex-boyfriend's name out of there. Like,
Yeah, but what is out of there mean? Like, where is there?
In the trough? You know what I mean? Like you can
The trough.
What, like the taint tattoos?
Nowhere that deep, but like it's crazy. Like women come in, they're like, "Oh, I need this taken off," and I'm like, I never really thought about that. And then next thing you know, you're in there.
You're in there.
Bruckmann.
Yeah.
Bruckmann.
So-
Listen, you're not giving me any details. What is? Are you talking about the vagina? Is that
Yeah.
what you're discussing?
I think that's what the kids are calling it now. Yeah. The
Oh,
vagina.
that's the trough.
You can get your vajayjay tattoo.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that the
hey,
trough? Oh my god!
Called it a trough.
Wow.
You can tattoo.
I just
anything,
picture
man. You can tattoo anything.
Maple Leaf Gardens, the back.
Yeah.
I think if you have something that you call a trough that potentially could carry water, you've got bigger issues than a tattoo, than a
Well-
misplaced tattoo.
Yeah.
Well,
You can write the whole team. You can write the whole team on a trough. Not just one guy.
yeah, the trough comes with a lot of options, man. You can use it for a lot of things, right? So
Yeah.
you can eat out of it, you can piss into it, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen those videos, traditionally German. But
Hence the reason why we don't want Bill C10.
No way this makes it on air. So you do tattoo removal, but you are tatted right the fuck up.
Yeah, man, my life is like one huge fucking irony.
Conundrum.
Like, yeah, like I spent 35 years collecting tattoos, and now I'm like,
Yeah.
my job is to convince other people that it's okay to take theirs off. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, how do you have any capital, any reputational
Yeah,
capital in the tattoo removal business?
you know what it is?
If you were an Alcoholics Anonymous, you'd be a bootlegger.
The worst.
Yeah,
Terrible.
true. But when people come in, it's, man, I have the most insane tattoo stories you can imagine. So anyone that walks in the door, I can relate. Like they tell me the funny story
Yeah,
or tragic
makes
story, and I'm like, oh, it's easy for me to sit. I can relate to anyone. Tattoos are kind of universal now, right? And I understand why you got them and why you want them off. And my job is to just calmly walk you through the most horrible fucking process ever.
I got a funny story. So we got a guy.
Do you
on
want
our
some funny
show.
story music? Yes.
No, it's quick. So this guy, we do a weekly hit with him. He's a blogger in town. He's really entertaining. So we put him on to talk about the Oilers, and he writes for the Oilers Nation, and he was in Taiwan for about a year on sort of like a find yourself thing, and he was running out of money. So this tattoo guy hired him to get drunk with international travelers and bring him to his tattoo shop in the middle of the night to give them tattoos, and he would get a cut of whatever.
That's amazing. That's my kind of job.
Yeah.
So like, and I've been that international traveler. Like I got tattooed in Singapore, like fucking 2:30 in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
So like I do dumb shit like that all the time. So I can that guy, yeah, he'd make a killing in my circle. So.
Kindred spirits.
So how does one tattoo the vagina?
Yeah,
It
like, I got a
seems
lot more
like
questions
what-
about
what-
that.
Yeah, like I'm
trough.
back to the trench, the trough, whatever you call it.
Trench
The
is good too.
You got like the pins, like when you dissect a frog and you just spread the.
Yeah, like does your chair have? First of all, does your chair have stirrups?
No, we haven't got that far. Like I'm not.
Okay.
I'm actually climbing. I'm not climbing in there. You know what I mean? I'm just hovering
Right.
around it. So,
Well, I'm just asking because I don't know. So no stirrups on the chair.
no.
And when you have a tattoo on your vagina, what is traditionally the story that you hear? Like, what is ballpark it? The majority of vagina tattoo removals that you do. How many are like, listen, I was drunk, and how many are like, I thought I'd get into porn or felt a little dangerous?
No.
Like, what's the excuse for that?
every lower body tattoo is always ex-boyfriend related, man. Every single time. Like they got something like someone was
They want to put a mark on them or
yeah,
something, right?
and
Like, yeah.
that's exactly what it is, right? So these like
Ended.
people will get these things done for their boyfriends in the past or whatever else, and like this, the best part of the job that I do now is these girls come in and they're ashamed and they want that part of their life like erased, and I'm like, I kind of get to help them like get rid of that bad memory or that douchebag, because that's what that is. When it's kind of people are placing ownership in a way.
It's always really uncomfortable when you're with Brad, and when Brad goes down there, it says Brian's. Right?
Yeah,
it's a target.
Right? Like there's no
becomes
date
a target.
on that. You don't know, right? That could be from 3 weeks ago. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's better you keep a clean slate.
Yeah. So I have a question to even out this conversation. Do men get their dicks tattooed?
I haven't seen that yet, but I'm sure it exists.
Ask Robin Black.
So, hey, like, I was gonna say, ask Robin, man. He put a coat hanger through his, so like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Was that the primary purpose of his?
He was a model. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why you can't give me any fucking do that. I'm partial to my hair, and I want to keep it looking fresh. You know what I mean? And uncut. So I don't know.
I told the story about the guy that did get. I know he got tattooed. So he was a black man, and he had a
here we go,
a circumcision that went sideways. Look this up. Okay,
for it to go sideways.
Is he going to say
no?
Is the end of this story? Does it rhyme with "Welcome to Jamaica"? Enjoy your stay.
No. The last time I told the story, you called bullshit on it, but it was a couple of months back. So this guy, we were talking about this guy on my radio show. So he's a black guy, and he had something go wrong, and he had a horrible infection on his dick. Lost his dick. Boom, gone. Okay. Gets called for a dick transplant. They're like, get down here. We got a guy. He goes down and he gets a white guy's penis. So not only are you a black guy and you lost your dick, worst luck ever, now you get a new one and it's a white guy's. And he was trying to find somebody to tattoo it the color of his skin.
Isn't that racist?
I don't believe any of
what
that.
What a ripoff! Eh?
I don't believe any of that story. You are making all of this up. And the end of the story usually goes, "Welcome to Jamaica, man. Hope you enjoy your day." And it starts with just "Welcome."
I'm just telling you. I'm telling you right now. If this is a true story, which I've heard it is,
it's not.
He's no, it's worst
the
luck
fucking story
of
I've
any
ever
man
heard.
on the
Aren't
planet.
you a brony detective too? Where's all that brony evidence you were talking about?
Taylor Hall's
Hey,
Brian. That's true.
Sean just sent us a comment. My English neighbor has like 8 girls' names tattooed on his ass cheek and a line through from every ex he's been owned.
That's the other way to do it, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you put a line through it, and then which would be
happened.
comforting, right? If you're a guy and you meet a girl who's got like a list of guys around her vagina that she's been through. So you know what that is? All that is like a warning label. It's a warning label to probably wear a rubber. Is what that is.
Look at all those ties on that grocery.
So Bruckmann, tattoo removal artist, but MMA guy.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? You're healthy. You're in shape. You obviously more in shape and healthier than us. Like, fuck, no offense to Lachlan who does yoga.
I'm ripped.
Yeah, okay. But you're not like him. Look at him. He's a rock, dude. He's a rock. He's a former MMA champion. He's like a fucking kung fu fighter or whatever. Sorry, I don't know if you know kung fu. I was just like, wow.
Not one bit, no.
Okay, no. Jiu-jitsu? Am I on the karate? Where am I?
Jiu-jitsu. I'm big on jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it like, I know Robin Black's story, he got into MMA when he was like 40, but guys like us, is it entirely possible for us? I'm 48, Lachlan's 60, James is, but guys our age, is it possible for us to walk? Because I watched a video this weekend of a woman getting rocked in her first foray into the octagon.
Yeah, that's awful.
And it had me thinking, because I'm like, I watched Rob and we talked to him a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, it sounds like it'd be fun to get into some grappling and some wrestling, some punching, like a little inner aggression. Do you suggest guys like us, like, do many people make that transition, or is Robin the only dude?
No, 100%. Especially my main martial art is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mixed martial arts isn't for everyone, but I think Jiu-Jitsu is for everyone. It's the greatest gift you give your kids, you give your parents. Like, I have students from 4 years old, guys, all the way up into their 60s. Right? It's fucking hard work, and but it's fun. You learn how to defend yourself. You learn a sport. There's the camaraderie involved in what we do is not like anything you've ever seen, and you get to go fuck people up every day, but like friendly. And we were like, we're gonna train, and then we're gonna shake hands. We're gonna smash each other for a bit, and then we go home. It's like, for us, it's our version of sitting at the pub. You know what I mean? You go and hang out with your buddies every night, and you get your fitness and work out your frustrations, and then you go home instead of hanging out at the bar.
Can I wear my glasses into the octagon?
Well, you could. I don't know where they're gonna end up though.
But doesn't
jiu-jitsu, in the trough?
From a person that's never done it before, jiu-jitsu seems to have that cultural undertone that I never hear about that. Like, hey, judo, it's a real like bonding thing. But jiu-jitsu, it's like, I don't know. There's something about it where you meet someone who's been doing it for like 8 months, and they have this excitement, and they're like literally trying to sell you on, you should come, man. You should come. It'd be great. We should do a roll or whatever the fuck. And I don't see that with any other martial arts. I only see that with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've trained in like judo and wrestling and boxing and everything else, and there is something in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that doesn't. It's just way more laid back and way more welcoming. Where a lot of the other martial arts is a lot more dog eat dog. So like, you can walk as a jiu-jitsu guy, you can bring your gi and travel the world and wander into anyone's gym, and most of the time they're going to invite you in. Like, they're going to lean on you and beat you up a little bit, but like, it's out of love. You know what I mean?
But do they look at you when you come in like you're fresh meat, just a new sparring partner, or like?
No,
because I feel like that culture is very welcoming too.
It's if I were to walk into someone else's gym, or they came into mine, I'm like, of course, we're gonna lean on you a little bit and see kind of what you're made of. And I expect someone to do that to me when I walk into them. They're just testing the waters, you know what I mean? But overall, it's friendly. I've traveled the world with my gi and wandered into anyone's gym, and you don't even have to speak the language, right? Because the jiu-jitsu and martial arts is its own language. You go in, you introduce yourself, shake hands, and you get on the mats. Like, you don't need to know how to speak. The jiu-jitsu is the language.
Justin, is there something to the Anthony Bourdain and quite a few people that I know that had addiction issues got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Is there something about that wiring that attracts people towards that?
100%.
Great question.
It's so true. It's because there's a
lot of guys.
You hear it in our game, in our sport, martial arts all the time. That is, jiu-jitsu saved my life, and for me, that's like 100% true. I know, and I have a lot of veterans, people who served, and people who came back from addictions, and alcohol and drugs, and people who suffered from abuse, and we all kind of end up in the same place, because it's somewhere that everyone has that one thing in common, right? It's a really nice culture where everyone is looking. It's your job to make everyone in the room better, right? And so that camaraderie builds, and again, outside of the military and things like that, where are you going to find something that people show each other that much respect and take care of each other that much? And it's so hard. It's such hard work.
Anti-vaxxers?
Man.
There's a rally. There's a rally on the weekend at the Ledge, and
but you bring up a good point.
Like, it's guys have been hanging out lately.
The community, right? And I see what you're saying. Like, it dawned on me when you said you go across the world, walk into a gym with your gi, and they're like, "Come on in!" Like, you don't even need to speak the language, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that sense of community and belonging. But where it comes to addiction, or where it comes to abuse, or like, I've got a friend that just got out of this terrible relationship, PTSD, lots of stuff going on. Joined a gym. He's balls deep in jiu-jitsu, and he is reading about Sisyphus. He's reading about Taoism, Buddhism, philosophy. Like, it's really changed his mind. What is it what's the connection between jiu-jitsu and peace of mind? Or
was it done on purpose?
Evolution?
Was it done on purpose, Justin? Like, was there somebody back in the day that said this would be good for this type of wiring, right?
I've watched the culture of a change over the last 20 years. I think right out of the gates, there's an instant gratification that comes with jiu-jitsu. Like, so if fulfilling that need for dopamine when you get on the mats is hard work, is exercise. There's some small thrill of battle or victory in every single practice that you go to. And then I think there's the camaraderie part is what really helps with the addiction part, is because you're surrounded with people who have struggled with addiction is because they had a traumatic experience or they're missing something in their lives that led them down that path. And you're finding yourself in a room with these people that help fill that, like a healthy way of filling that void for you. Right. And you get that exercise and you feel better and you look better. And it just fills so many gaps, you know what I mean? Like, and I see it all the time. It's a game changer. I just came back all the time. I came back from Texas a couple weeks ago, and I trained down.
So why you have a cough? So why you coughing?
That's got nothing to do with it. It's I got a way better story for that one. No, I taught at
it's a trough story.
I taught at a gym in Austin, Texas, and it was all for just veterans, right? So it was on the mats with like 20 people from all over Texas that they meet every week at different gyms, and it's all just guys who served and who suffer from, again, PTSD or addictions and things like that. And they're all on the mats, and everyone's got that one thing in common, and they forget about, the stuff that happens in their head and the things that they saw and did for that couple hours a week. You know what I mean? And
I wonder if that's why this woman decided to get into MMA. I put this up this week, right off the couch, right into the octagon. Have a watch with us if you can.
I've seen this.
This shocked me. Like, you can't. This is why I'm asking: can a 48-year-old get in the ring? Watch this. She's clearly not. Bang, throat shot. Bang, face shot. Bang, another face shot. She's on the ground. Bang, and out. Clearly pissed her pants. Like, that's the kind of stuff when I'm watching it. I'm like, how does that happen? Like, do you have a bunch of people that
she needed a
that
better
just go,
corner?
I need to.
See, what you're watching there is like completely different than what we do, right? But that shit there, that is fucking just irresponsible. Whoever was in charge, that's a fucking scumbag. And that poor woman shouldn't have been there. That's whoever was standing in her corner. That was the promoter who put it on.
Yeah, she's nervous. She's picking her nails before the fight. She goes out, puts her dukes up, and literally gets punched 3 times harder than I've ever been punched in my life. And doesn't throw a shot. It's like, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, do you suggest that guys like Lachlan and I decide to get into this and we just walk right into the octagon? Because I'm not much for the practicing.
Hell no. You know what's up to being on the mats and doing jiu-jitsu is one thing. Getting yourself in that cage is not for everyone, and it takes years and years to develop the skill. Because dude, you'll fucking die out there. Like, don't kid yourself. It's a violent sport, and anything could happen. And,
do you suggest that if Lachlan and I get into it, we come up with a safe word? Yes or no?
Well, yeah, you guys want to fuck each other up, man. I'll pretend to coach both of you. You know what I mean? So
pretend.
I'll pretend to pick a side. I'll coach you both, and
I am the worst fighter. I used to get my ass handed to me on a regular basis. I've learned to pick my spots with my mouth now. Yeah. Because that used to get me. I was at a bar one night, and this guy, a big guy, punched me square in the chops. And this was about 10, 11 years ago. And I actually just saw him at the football game, and he came up to me and he goes, "Hey, Locke," and he went. And I went, "Hey, Rod, thanks. You fixed my jaw." He cranked me so hard right in the face. And I had a click in my jaw for years, and it went away. It's gone. To this day, he fixed my fucking jaw. Yeah.
Hey, you got to see the good everything.
I'm dead serious. I swear to God. I had a click in my jaw for years until A-Rod just frickin' popped me drunk one night on a pub crawl. And I'm like, "Why'd you do that?" And he goes, "I thought you wanted me to." I'm like, that's the worst excuse for punching somebody I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I watch that woman get her ass kicked, or I hear stories about you getting fight. I have a really strong sense of self-preservation, Justin. like super, super strong sense of self-preservation. The second someone starts fighting,
you're
I'm the guy that goes, yeah, no, I stay away. I don't want to fight. I'm like, no, I don't like. I've been in lots of fights, enough fights, and I've lost enough fights to know that at the age of 48, this is again about self-preservation. That the last thing I'm going to do is decide that in my way of exercise includes getting punched in the head or getting submitted on a mat full of herpes. Like that's how I think. However, I'm open to the idea because there's something about testing yourself against someone else to see where you're at. And it's not just about strength, right? Like the MMA stuff, or maybe it's the grappling I'm interested in. I really don't know. But since I started to talk to Robin and since we, started to kind of educate ourselves about this whole world, it looks exciting, but it doesn't comport with my extreme desire to not get punched in the face ever again.
Well, and you know what the beauty of jiu-jitsu is, you're not getting punched in the face, right? It's all grappling, and I'm telling you, like I've been training for 20 something years, man. Since I've started training as a professional, I've never ever been in a fight, and man, that's when I was young. That's all I ever did was fight. It taught me a lot more respect for myself and for other people, because you'll see this little fucker next to you, and you don't know. You'll realize
it's the little ones.
Yeah, you don't know what anyone knows anymore, right? And it just. I've become a lot more tolerant of people and or patient with people. You know,
is
what
it
I mean?
Because deep down, you could probably kill them if you wanted, so it's probably not in your best interest to fight?
Part of it.
To be quite honest, like I think as a man and as a fighter, I walk into a room, I size everyone up, right? But that's not how I think. But it's true. It's true. We all do.
Hold on. When you walk into a room, tell me about that process, sizing everybody up. Because when I walk into a room, I look for exits to make my quick getaway. But you walk into a room and you're like, "Who's who? If I had to fight, who would I punch first?" Like, how do you size guys up?
I don't consciously do it. I just know that. I don't know.
It just
happens.
Funny.
It just happens. It's funny. So I have cauliflower ears. My ears are mangled, right? But now let's say I'll go to a baseball game. I'll tell you, every single time, if there's one dude at that ball game who has cauliflower ears as well, we'll find each other, because that guy's scanning the crowd to look for the guy with bad ears, and so am I. We don't even mean to. We just do it. And then you see each other, you're like, you give each other a nod and you move on with your day. I don't know. I think because I'm always under pressure and always competing and training and teaching other people, you're just always conscious of what's going on around you, right? I would never put myself in a room anymore or in a situation where I'm going to get in a fight. I'm not fighting unless you pay me. Like, I enjoy fighting, but I'm at the point in my life now where I'm like, I'm going to look like a fucking dick if I go get in a fight, right? But doesn't matter. It doesn't mean my big old dick doesn't make me think that I can kill everyone in the room. It's just the way that I'm built.
Yeah,
I'm
still
a
got
fighter.
your ego.
Yeah, I'm still a fighter. But
I learned a very valuable lesson. I learned a valuable lesson years ago when I went to, it was in my late 20s. We went to a bar with a bunch of guys, and I'm a big guy. But I'm not like, I can't carry myself at all. I've never been a decent fighter. And I was with a bunch of other pretty big guys, and at some point in the evening we were asked to leave the establishment we were at because we were being assholes, and I was okay with the decision of the ownership of the bar to ask us to leave. Some of the people that I was with were not, and we were outside, and there was a bit of a confrontation, and no one was fighting at this point. There was some pushing and shoving, but there was one really big bouncer, and then there was this little guy. And I remember sitting there going, I think we need to be more worried about the little fucker. Yeah. And I'm trying to get everybody in the car and get the fuck out of it. That was back in the day when you still drank and drive, right? So we're all sitting there trying to get everybody sorted, but there was like 3 or 4 guys that were trying to prove that they were, still man, and they were pissed off. Well, at one point, this fucking little guy, and I'm talking 5'5", 5'6", $140, jumped straight in the air, and his leg came out from the side of him, and he kicked one of the guys that I was with in the side of the head and knocked him out cold. And I'm like, I told you guys, I told you the little fucker was going to be the problem. And that guy proceeded, and the big guy just sat and watched the little guy fuck up the rest of the guys. That was what happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that was a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, so
It's always
fucking
it's always the
be
little guys,
nice.
but I had no idea it was like cauliflower ears was like the one thing you wanted to keep an eye. Like if you're like me and you hate getting punched in the face, don't pick on somebody with cauliflower ears. Got it.
Man, it took a lot of work to get those shitty ears, right? I know what that guy had to do to get those ears. So we're gonna respect each other and move on with our day.
Yeah.
Speaking of guys who love to fight, what the fuck is wrong with Conor McGregor? All I see is him pimping pictures of him on his yacht, talking about his money, talking about his Lambo, talking about his yacht. Like when you, as a guy in this sport, which is jiu-jitsu based on humility, some pretty courageous tenets, and you look at Conor McGregor, are you like, fuck, dude, it's over. Quit trying to convince us. We know you're rich. Like, what do you make of him and this fucking, like, he hasn't won in years, and is he just still trying to convince us he's something?
Hey, we're talking about it right now, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the point, right? He's incredible at self-promotion, right?
But I fucking hate it. Like, I used to love it, and now I'm like fucking turned off by the whole thing.
I've never liked it either. I don't like that side of things, but you got to sell tickets, right? So whether you love that guy or hate him, you're watching the Conor McGregor show, right? So I think it's a poor way to represent the sport, but at the same time, it draws attention to it. Again, we're talking about it, and people want to see that guy get his ass kicked. Good, like he has to keep himself relevant. He hasn't had a win, so he's got to.
Is there more to it though, Justin? I think there's more to it this time around.
I think money will fucking send you down weird paths. I don't know what he's into. I can't say. You know what I mean? It's could be drugs and alcohol, or I don't know. I see he seems to be like out of his fucking mind, but I don't pay too close attention to it. But again, I think it's because he's injured and he's off and he's not competing. He needs to have people continue to talk about him so he can get that big money down the road when it is time to do it again.
Yeah, that narcissism. Yeah, that'll chew away at your psyche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. I think it just is like antithetical to everything that I think is important to do and be, where you promise low and deliver high, right? Yeah. And I know the fight game is all about, ampage, and it's all about jacking people up and in the show outside the show. But like what I saw in the ring when he broke his leg was a guy that basically just got his ass kicked before he broke his leg.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's always a fucking shitty look for a guy who's pimp daddy in his PJs on his yacht talking about how many asses he's going to kick. And then he walks into the ring and he just gets his ass handed to him in like a minute and a half.
Yeah. And that was the one thing that bothered me about that fight. I never want to see anyone get hurt or lose a matchup that way. But like he hit the floor, which is genius because as soon as he hit the floor, he was promoting the next matchup. So I'll give him credit for that. But the truth is when I'm watching his social media or anything that he has on the news afterwards, he's like, he's basically talking like I had him right where I wanted him. Like, dude, you're getting fucked up for the whole round. Like, it was only gonna get worse. You know what I mean? He made massive mistakes in that matchup that he wouldn't have made 5 years ago. So maybe he's kind of past his prime, or maybe the money and the fame has gotten to him. Or maybe he's all fucked up from taking punches. I don't know. Like, I don't want to judge the guy as a man. I don't know him, but I can appreciate his marketing skills. You know what I mean? I don't like that, but I'm really proud of my martial arts side of it. I mean, I like to fight, but I'm a martial artist first before anything. You know what I mean?
I think Poirier, I think how he handled him in this third fight and the fact that he won it, like it was clear that he was gonna win that fight. I think also he should get some credit for where McGregor's at right now. Not that that's a good thing. It's not something worth bragging about, but if that would have been a decision, no broken leg, I don't know if we'd have this version of McGregor, right?
Yeah.
Like I think Poirier got in. He's got space rented in McGregor's head now.
Yeah,
I think that's a big part of why he's sort of squirreling a little bit right now.
Yeah, and it also on top of that, like that that's fucking traumatic, man. You just had your leg broken in front of like literally millions of people saw you at your weakest.
Wait, are you saying compound fractures are hard to come back from?
That's like he's gonna have a hard go. Fortunately, he's got tons of bad whiskey and millions of dollars to get him through it. Right?
Fuck,
So,
that's is his whiskey bad? I've never had it.
I don't like whiskey to begin with, but I tried his and I was like, fuck that, man.
Garbage.
No.
Yeah. I quit drinking before it was a thing, but like he made 180 million this year. Did you know that?
That's crazy.
Selling his Proper 12 brand, 180 fucking million dollars he made. He's
Yeah.
the highest paid athlete in 2021 out of every athlete. LeBron, everybody. The highest paid athlete, Conor McGregor.
At whatever it was, the year that when he fought Mayweather, he made more in that matchup than the entire UFC roster made together in the last 10 years.
He made 100 million in that one fight, right?
Yeah. And that's everyone on the roster combined didn't make even close to that over 10 years. The UFC.
That's the thing. Like, if you why the show now? Like he's the grand. He fucking made the sport, right?
Narcissism.
Like if you ask me, his bullshit brought the bravado brought that sport into the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And this is from the outside in because I've only started in the last couple of years to really enjoy MMA. But, you know, why doesn't he just do what I would do, which is you've made almost $1 billion. Why bother? Like, why keep this up? Why, you know, he's in his mid 30s. He hasn't won. Like the fucking guy before the match, Dana White said he was begging Dana to let him tape his ankles, which I apparently you're not allowed to do. I didn't know that. I fucking know. And because of his arthritis. Like, at what point does a guy like that go, maybe I should do tattoo removal?
Well,
maybe I need to check out some prop.
All right. I'll tell you why. I can think of two guys in combat sport history that retired like on their own terms on top. One's George St. Pierre and the other one is Mayweather. Okay.
Yeah.
And they went out on top on their own terms when they stopped. Dude, it's hard. It's hard. Okay. Fish swim, birds fly, fighters fight. It's the only thing we know how to do.
Yeah.
No matter what drug you've ever tried in your life, it's not even fucking close. It's the most amazing thing in the entire world. How do you stop? I broke my fucking neck. I had to stop. And even then, I'm like 10 years later, I'm like, I'm going to try some again. Like, dude, it is so hard to let go of. And I'm a fighter till the day I die. I wake up dreaming of it every day. I dream of it before I go to bed. I dream like it's what I want to do. It's what I'm born to do.
It's crazy because I spend the entire day trying to avoid fighting.
Yeah. I know.
I spend most of my day trying not to masturbate, but that might be something.
I don't
different.
even try that part. but like it's
in public, in public.
It's what we're born to do and what we're bred to do, and we're performers.
Yes.
Like imagine not getting on. Like you got to be on the mic, you got to entertain. This is what we do. And like,
so why do I keep hearing about GSP wanting to come back or maybe coming back for like a charity match? Like I don't think that's like
GSP though.
He'll never come back.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard like GSP versus this guy, the King versus that King, the two Kings, like McGregor. Like what is like what prevents a guy like that? Obviously common sense, right? You know, saying, hey, fuck, I'm done. But like, is he fighting again?
No, George will never fight again. George will fully admit that like George never liked fighting. He liked training. He liked all the other stuff. That part, the fighting part, he never enjoyed that very much. He just did it because that's what he's good at, and that's how he made his money. And he's guy's a fucking animal.
He never enjoyed fighting.
No, it wasn't his.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, I know it's not really his thing. It's just that's the sport part of it, right? Like
Gretzky hated hockey.
If you ever talk to George, you know he doesn't want to hurt anyone. Like it's not his thing, right? But I don't know. He's like he fully admits he's like I was the best in the world. My best years are behind me. Now it's time for other people to do their thing. He's like, there's no point in me coming back now. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's which I respect so much because if you gave me that window and I was healthy or whatever else, and so it's like, I'm like, dude, fucking sign me up. I can't say no.
Fucking healthy.
You know what I mean? And like, so for guys that go to know when their run is over and stop, man, I got so much respect for him because very few of us can do that. Like we need to be protected from ourselves. That's how people keep going and end up with 5 losses in a row and injuries and this and that, like, and going back to shitty shows and getting hooked on pills and all that. Like, it's just like pro wrestling. It's sports entertainment. You're looking for that thrill all the time. And then, so how do you ever, and no one could, I had to stop on my own terms because of injuries, but no one could tell me to do it No, you can't tell a guy that's fought his whole life that you can't fight anymore. It's got to be his idea.
Well,
right?
the eye
It's so
injury
hard.
stuff must have had a pretty major impact when you potentially could lose your eyesight for GSP, right? Like, I was there not an eye, like a detached retina thing?
No, that
for
was
him.
George had with George. It was like he had
I
a
thought
few
Mental.
No,
I thought it was an eye. I thought he had an eye.
I
No,
thought like it was
collectors.
back in the heat of in the hype of GSP. My understanding was that there was this real mental block or something that he was like, and I don't know if it's because he got tired of hurting people. I'm not sure, but it seemed to be like he was really conflicted about fighting again for some reason.
Yeah, well, I think originally what happens, because I think he retired after the Hendricks fight, which he just kind of squeaked through, but he was having all sorts of issues like colitis and things like that. And that job is fucking hard, man. And if you really hate the fight that much, it's stressful. Man,
Yeah.
I can't think of a more stressful job than that. You're going out there to die in front of millions of people, right? For very little money. And if you don't love it, if you don't love it and you're not prepared or emotionally, that day on the job can end up real bad, right? And that becomes.
Do you remember that Sean O'Malley fight? Remember the Sean O'Malley fight in that McGregor Poirier night?
Yeah.
Sugar Sean O'Malley,
Yeah.
where he punched that kid something like 340 times.
Yeah, I think it was a record. Yeah.
Broke his hands punching that guy in the face.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I watched that and I'm like, and the guy had no chance, but he didn't go down. Like he was just Mutino. Sean Mutino is his name.
Yeah.
Mutino. Yeah. That was the guy's
I remember that fight.
Yeah, dude, it was the best fight of the night. And part of me was like, how does that guy not after that fight go out of my league? Like I was literally a dummy for 3 rounds.
And the reason the guy stood in there for that long is because he's born to fight. He might not be better than the next guy, but that's what he's put on this planet to do, and he proved it. Like I'm torn over that fight because, like I'm watching
You're
it
not
from
alone.
I'm watching it from this side. Like that fight should be stopped. But if it was me, if you stop that fight on me, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, and then people are like, "Oh, the referee shouldn't have stopped. There was only 10 seconds left, or whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, but the referee doesn't know what the time is. It's his job to protect this guy's gonna die for it, right? So someone has to protect him from himself." And that's.
Was there a time where you would die for it? Was there a time where you would have like said, "No, I'd fucking rather get punched in the head. Like, don't stop this thing."
I think probably when I was a professional. Not as much as I would be now. I'm like, man, I would like to go meet Justin Bruckmann at like that version. I'd fucking kill that guy. You know what I mean? I'm so much tougher and like mentally and physically, I understand so much more. You put me in there right now, yeah, I'll fucking die.
Question. Do you want someone to break into your house one night when you're sleeping so you can fuck them up? I've seen these stories. I've seen like those unlucky fuckers. Remember that story? I can't remember who it was. The dude who was in the middle of the pandemic and he broke into that MMA guy's house in Vegas. The MMA guy just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, it was some meth head or something. But see, I don't think that extreme. Like I don't want you to break into my house, but I'm like, all right, like throw me a bone every once in a while. So, all right, so I'll give you an example. So I'm at Starbucks.
And Safeway. Starbucks is better.
So
Starbucks is good.
I'm at Starbucks and I'm going to go pulling into the parking lot. So I go to pull into a space and this other guy goes to pull in the space at the same time. And we both tap the brakes and I'm like, oh, go ahead, dude. And he's like, all right. So he takes a space. The parking lot's fucking practically empty. There's room for everyone. So I just take a spot a couple times down. And then this guy we're going to get out for our coffees and he starts chirping me. I'm like, why are you chirping me, man? I gave you the parking spot. Like, there's no harm, no foul. Like, we're even close to running into each other. And the guy keeps going. I'm like, all right. He keeps going. I'm like, listen, dude. I'm like, I will not fight you over a fucking parking spot, but I'll fucking fight you for fun. And then the guy was like, and that was the fucking. They always want it. They always want it until you actually offer it to them, right? Because then that's when I got out and made a joke at the guy. I'm like, dude, I'll fuck you up. Like it'll be boring. And he kind of was like, oh, okay. But that's thing, like these. Yeah, man, give me like I said, throw me a fucking bone. I really like. I would never go get in a fight.
Yeah,
but fucking come at me You know what I mean? Just make
Justin,
my day.
Do me a favor. Do us all a favor. If that ever happens, just make sure
Record it.
someone's rolling tape.
Someone's always rolling. That's got to be out of circuit, a camera somewhere, right? So, yeah, like,
And
so
do it in the Starbucks too, because that's funnier. In the parking lot, that's boring. You got to fuck them up in the lineup at Starbucks.
And then sit around for your order. Sit around for your order as the guy's laying there in a pool of his own urine.
I'll make him pay for my
Justin Bruckmann. Yeah, Macachino. That's me right here, Justin. I'm the guy.
I would never get into fight. I would never get into fight. It's just not the way I am. But like, yeah, man, if you happen to maybe want to throw a punch, I'd be okay with it. Like, I really like what I do.
I do enjoy you. I actually have a funny story that happened not too long ago, and it's not Starbucks. It's a little less classy, but it was in a Tim Hortons. So I get my breakfast sandwich and my coffee, and I go to my car. And there's a fucking truck parked behind my vehicle with his flashers on. And I'm like, that's that cocksucker that ran in. I saw a guy frantically run in and butt into the line. And I'm like, I can let this go. I can get in my car and wait. Or I can go in and tell this fucker exactly what I think of him. That's what I did. And keep in mind, I'm not Justin here. I would have got my ass handed to me. So, and he was a pretty decent sized guy. So I walk in and I went, "Hey, you fucking idiot. There's other people in here. You're fucking parked behind me. Move your fucking truck right now." And everyone's like wide-eyed because he butt in line and then I'm like, "Now you fucking asshole." And there's kids in there and parents are covering kids' ears. So we're walking out, and I look out of the corner of my eye, and sitting in the corner are 4 cops having their morning coffee. And he says to me on his way to his truck, he goes, "You're lucky there's cops in there, because I would fuck you up right now." And I went, come on, buddy. Come at me right now.
And see that there's a thing, right? There's a thing when guys like you say that and guys like me say that.
Yeah.
Is like they're deep down we know it's probably going to go very poorly for us. But with a guy like Justin, a guy like that walks up to me and says, "You're lucky the cops are here." I would be like, "Let's go around the corner and just finish this up real quick then." Right? Let's just do it.
I was
I'm the
thankful
opposite.
for the cops. I wanted him to take a swing at me so that they come and arrest him. Right? But I needed the cops there. I needed the cops there, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah. Well, we're all heroes in our own minds. Justin Bruckmann, where can people find you? You're still teaching MMA, right? Like, is this something that you're doing? You're still teaching jiu-jitsu and all the other shit?
I'm kind of all over the place right now. So I closed my gym. I was open for 15, 16 years here in Oshawa at Bruckmann MMA.
Right.
And the pandemic kind of happened and locked us down. And I decided over time it was time to close up shop. But there's plenty of great gyms around. I teach at Cal Samrat Gym in Bowmanville. I teach at Muay Thai Whitby here. Whitby, obviously. Man, it doesn't matter. Go train. And you can find me on Instagram, Bruckmann MMA. And also find me at Unwanted LTR. That's where I'm find my best work right now.
Unwanted LTR, is that the tattoo business, tattoo removal? That's what you do. So, do you have a full day? Like, are you excited to remove another tattoo from a lady's trough?
I was saving your trough till last, man. I was, troughs. No, I'm down for the day. I will say though, man, I am the luckiest guy in the world. I fucking love my job. It really is the greatest job. I'm making jokes like, the trough and stuff like that. I had the most amazing professional martial arts career you could ever imagine. I say this all the time. I've eaten out of a dumpster and I've flown first class around the world, and it's all something that martial arts gave me. Learning how to compete, fight, travel, meet these amazing people. I had the best job in the world, and I'm so fortunate that I kind of just wandered into this position I am now, because I'm in a position every day where I get to help people and make people feel better. The best part of my old job was what I got to do for the community, the difference that I got to make. So when I lost it, that was like the most heart-wrenching part. But this has been so fulfilling for me. Like, I help people leave here with the biggest sense of relief every day. And I'm so thankful for my job.
Mm-hmm. Good for you, man.
Worst tattoo you've ever removed? Not but worst, where you're like, holy fuck, this might be the worst.
Oh, man.
Look at him. Right now, he looks like he might kill somebody.
I
Lock.
don't
For
know.
fun too.
Yeah. Come at me, bro. Come at me.
Huh.
He's going through the Rolodex.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some funny stuff, you know what I mean? Like I removed some guy's, he had little piggies tattooed on his toes, which I thought that was I took that off today. I'm like, why would you take that off? He's like, well, I'm just kind of tired of telling the story. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm like, I'll get where you're coming from. Like that would get old. In the summer you wearing flip flops, but like I've removed some pretty funny like ass tattoos and stuff like that, and like and some penitentiary tattoos where I'm like, those are other ones too. Like the women that come in, they want that kind of piece removed of their life, and so they can forget about it, whether it's traumatic or like hurtful or whatever. But these guys that come in, they did their time and whatever else, and like they want that shit gone. I'm so happy to help those guys too, you know, because they're trying to change. People who are willing to go through that pain, you can tell they want to improve their lives, right? And that's really a really part of the job that I like. So, but yeah, I think probably the funniest one was the little piggies for sure.
Well,
there was
I would have just
story,
made fun
a
of the
local
guy.
story about a guy that
Oh,
was
here
a
we
white
go. The
supremacist.
Jamaican guy. Are you doing this again?
No. This doesn't have anything to do with making a penis another color. No, this guy was a white supremacist and obviously had some rather severe tattoos. And at some point in his life, he realized how wrong he was, and they helped him out. They had a guy, and they had him on TV and everything here locally. Yeah. They had a bunch of removals.
Which I think is amazing. Like I've done a couple things for like there's some tattoo shops in the area as well that they've sent me people to lighten up their tattoos for cover-ups, and a lot of these, you know, some of these girls were, you know, victims of human trafficking and things like that, and people were, you know what I mean? So I've kind of helped out with some stuff like that. Like I said, what I'm doing now, it really makes a big difference for people. Like it's not just
party tattoos, right? Like there's some serious fucking damage there. Yeah, that's cool.
Man, for sure. Well, I'd say a lot of I'm covered in tattoos. A lot of them, like, they're funny, but a lot of them got some real deep, serious shit to them. You know what I mean? And sometimes people get those and then it goes wrong, you know? So it's
I was thinking of getting a B on my left ass cheek and a B on my right ass cheek. When I bend over, it just says Bob.
I like maybe a little bullseye or an enter here or something like that, or exit only. I don't know how you roll. You know what I mean?
Bob, and the O's natural, right? So it's. Thanks, guys. Justin Bruckmann, Unwanted LTR. Is that the name of the company? If you're looking to get a tattoo removed,
that's it. And you can find me at Bruckmann MMA on Instagram as well.
Awesome. Cool. Dude, thank you so much. James cut out because his internet sucks because it's 47 degrees in his house, apparently. So I'm sure he'd say the same thing. I really appreciate you spending time with us today. Had a great time talking to you about something I know nothing about, which is generally pretty much the theme of every one of these shows.
That's the point, man. You got to learn. So
Yeah.
No,
so,
awesome. Thanks,
Locke.
Thanks
for coming.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a big honor, guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Take care, Justin.
Appreciate you. Yeah. That is Justin Bruckmann, ladies and gentlemen. Bruckmann MMA and Unwanted LTR. You want to get a tattoo? Never thought of that. I never thought about, the whole thing about, maybe there's some swastikas some guys want to have removed from their chest.
I think he's probably hanging on to a couple stories there, right? There was some private stuff that he said to remove, and he probably didn't need to say anything. Right? Right?
Yeah.
No, good guy.
Anybody. Great guy.
Yeah.
Great guest today. Thanks to MrMubinShaikh for being here. Thanks to James for being part of this, Locke. Thanks for cruising in here. I know you had a kind of a crazy day. You've been tested, but I appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Dean?
You're all right.
Always a pleasure. You have a good day.
Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM at Edmonton is where you can find him, and at Lachlan Cross on Twitter. Wee-wee. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks to our friends over at Easy Auto Financial, easyautofinancial.ca. You need to get yourself a car. You need to get yourself some financing. It is totally free to do. Turnkey. They'll get you the financing and the car, and the financing costs zero. easyautofinancial.ca. Good people that help you get into the car that you want. Doesn't matter what your credit rating looks like. easyautofinancial.ca. Our friend at Ed's Fine Imports, his Gitch. I wear them. You should too. They got a pouch for your junk. Super, super comfortable, resistant to shrinkage, durable and resistant to piling, developed for performance. Moisture wicking fabric. Go to Ed's Fine Imports, order your pairs today. You can get 4 pairs for the price of 3 when you use promo code GITCH and then the number 3, edsfineimports.com. Hi to our pals over at Blue Microphones. Go online and order anything you need to do game, podcast, anything you do that's digital, any content you put out. They're a Logitech group of companies, so they got a ton of cameras. They've got these Blue Yeti X mics. They've got a ton of different kinds of headphones. Basically, anything that you can do to plug into a computer to create content, they have it, and it's affordable, and it is the best equipment in the business. Go to @Blue Microphones on Twitter or bluemics.com for a complete look at everything that they do. And domination.com, thanks to our friends over at Domination, DMNTN.com. We use them all the time to produce content. You can do the same. Takes minutes instead of hours. Free to try. If you're a content producer, DMNTN.com. Check them out today. That's it. Have a great day. Sign up for a newsletter at deanblundell.com. And we'll see you soon. Bye.